Thank you for taking the time to participate on this live broadcast of the Coatings Talk Leadership Series. Next up is Sam Navarro on the topic of leadership skills for industrial contractors. Hey, welcome to an all-new live stream of Coatings Talk. This is the third episode for the leadership series. One more to go next Monday night. We'll wrap up everything, but I've got an amazing guest tonight, and that's Sam Navarro from IPC Industries. Sam, welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me back.
Hey, for the one person out there that's watching right now that might not know who Sam Navarro is, Sam, who are you and who do you work for?
So my name is Sam Navarro. I've been in the paint business for about 23 years now. I started off as a delivery driver in a paint store, and I just never left. I work for an industrial contractor based out of Santa Fe, Texas, so just outside of Houston, by the name of IPC Industries.
So Sam and I, we've known each other for, over probably 13 plus years now. And the one thing that I've learned about Sam throughout his career is that he is an ultimate leader, and leadership is so important when it comes to industrial painting contractors. Sam, let's open us up and have a conversation related to the importance of it. In order to be an effective industrial painting contractor, you really need to have a very cohesive team. You also have to have a lot of skills in place, and also you have to be very agile, and you also have to be very forward thinking when it comes to project work, because customer demands are always changing, everything like that. How critical is leadership in a painting contractor environment?
Well, thanks for the compliment earlier. It means a lot coming from you. So leadership's important in any organization. What I found, just because I've been in the business for so long, is that it's really important in our world because we do dangerous stuff, and we work in dangerous environments, and we work at height, and we work with dangerous coatings that aren't necessarily healthy for you. So having a good leadership organization really helps you make sure that you're providing your craftsmen with the latest PPE, that you're being eco-friendly and disposing of your stuff correctly, and all these things.
And with leadership within a contracting environment, you typically are not going to have one strong leader. You might have multiple leaders that kind of specialize when it comes to either operations. They might be someone who's really good at running the business development, all those different sides of the business. Typically for yourself, you've been involved in anything from operations to business development. What is some of the common important skills that a leader would need to have in an industrial contracting operation?
My number one is compassion. That's something that you don't often hear in our industry, but it's true. The men and women who are out there sandblasting every day or painting every day in these environments, they have lives, they have struggles just like anyone else, and when you deal with hundreds of them, or in a previous role thousands of them at one time, you really have to remember that compassion for just human nature, and that everybody's going to have bad days. And as a leader, it's often the biggest misunderstanding that the leader is going to set the tone for everybody, and that it's his way or the highway. And it's quite the opposite. When you have so many employees, they're coming at you in every direction. They're unloading their issues, or they're going to have bad days, and you can't just jump right on them, and you can't make rash decisions. You really have to process that they've got a lot going on as well. And as the organization grows, as you have more people, it gets more and more challenging. But compassion's the number one thing. Determination would be another one. Focus would be another one. The one that I've really been happy here at IPC is Clay, the owner of the company, and we see eye to eye on growth, and we're very focused on responsible, stable growth. We're not trying to go out and be the biggest contractor. We have no desire for that, because all that does is that pushes your people to a breaking point. And at the end of the day, you can only grow so much.
Yeah, so true on all that. What I found interesting with your conversation is that you're talking a lot about soft skills, and probably a lot of people watching who might know a little bit about industrial contracting, especially on the industrial painting side, they might think of more of the hard skills. They might think a lot of the practical skills and things like that. But when it comes to really running an operation, running an organization to grow it, you need to have a lot of those soft skills. And that's really important. Like you said, compassion, the communication, really having the knowledge of how to manage people is important, because, that's really what makes, at the end of the day, makes things happen. Some of the things that I want to talk about next are related to some of the skills. And I'll start it off by talking about a skill in the industry that's really benefited me. And I've mentioned this before on other broadcasts. The only certification I can actually ever obtain in the protective coatings industry is the protective coating specialist, because I do work in the coatings industry. I work for a coatings manufacturer. I work in and around specifications. I've done that for the last 13 years. And also, too, I have a pretty good knowledge when it comes to the technical side of protective coatings. And where I'm really lacking is hands-on practical. I can never be a blaster and never be a sprayer. I'm never going to become an inspector other than going for a level 1, either in concrete or in
Right.
coatings. But for me, the protective coating specialist was important for me to obtain, because it not only gives me a credential, but it also showcases to those that I work for and also work with in the industry, owners, engineers, whoever it might be, that I have the ability, the skill set, the training, and also, too, I've done the certification and maintain that certification in order to showcase that I am a professional. And you can have some level of belief in what my abilities are to be able to help you produce a specification or deal with projects and things like that. For you, what is one of the first either a certification or a skill that you have that you feel sets you aside in the industry?
Skill, I would say bilingual. That's something that is vital in our industry. But when I was a sales guy forever, and then got into more of the business development, and yes, there is a difference in sales and business development. You and I have gone back and forth with that. When I first dipped my toe into the operations side, I jumped right in the hornet's nest and took over one of the highest producing pipe coating shops in the country. And I'll be the first one to admit, I hadn't done an inspection in so long that I found myself YouTubing at the middle of the night to try to remember how to do a high voltage test or glue dollies on correctly, or all these things. But as I went on, it's important to humble yourself that, hey, yeah, you don't have to know everything. You just have to be willing to learn how to do those things. I think it's important in the industrial coatings world for whoever's the leader to be able to identify pieces of equipment. Are they running correctly? Hey, go grab this, or let's do this together, or why don't you try this? I think it's important to be able to put a different perspective on it. I try I empower our guys, our leadership in the field, to do things as they would do it. And I try never to question them, because they're the guys that do it every single day. And it's only until something maybe doesn't go the right way that we have to, put in and interject, right? And it does happen, but as long as you do it respectfully, and as long as you do it privately, and really try to use it as a teaching moment, I believe that everybody grows, and that should be the goal of every organization, is to grow from the bottom up.
Yeah, I like how you approach that. The one thing I've always, with the stuff that I learned in taking a course or taking a certification class, you learn the theory, you learn the science behind it, the technique, but when you get out in the field, there's practical, there's the reality. And I've always seen where what is said in the textbook, in the reality of the practical world, it can be slightly different. And a lot of it, you have to kind of best practice and really rely on the talent of your team out there in the field. And so as a leader, that's super important, that you are in tune and listening to your coworkers, those staff that's out there that are doing the day-to-day work. And where I really come to appreciate that, and this is going to be my next, where I really kind of grew a lot of skills related to coatings industry, although it was powder coating, was working for a steel service center here in Pittsburgh. And that operation actually acquired a fabricator, and part of it was a powder coat line. And just being exposed to that part of a contracting, working for a steel service center, supplying steel to people, but now all of a sudden fabricating product for people for a project, painting that, and then getting it out there to go into the field for installation or whatever it might be. That really kind of put a different perspective for me, because now I started to really understand exactly what a lot of the contractors, and a lot of them we were supplying steel to, and they were fabricating, but the kind of cool to be on that side and really understand exactly how business is done. And then if you have the right planning, the right process procedures and leadership, you're going to have, you're never going to never have any problems, but you're going to be able to manage your problems and really on the end for your customer or the end customer really look like you're an A1 class organization, because you're able to deal with any roadblocks or any hurdles you got to jump. You're able to deal with them. For you, for some of the experience you had for life lessons, how important is it to learn how to deal with those, oh my God moments?
So I have this phrase that you and I have talked about before, just roll with it, right? And people used to tease me about it. And once I tell them the theory behind it, if there is one, they really start to grasp it. Like, if you ever hear me raise my voice, with that, it's bad, because I never raise my voice. I'm always a big believer that if you raise your voice, you've lost the battle, right? And so, I think that when you have these situations where things do go wrong, number one is take a step back and breathe and process all of it and think about it, chew on it, is what I always say, or I'll say kick the can down the road a little bit, right? And then come back to a logical, solution. And you're going to make mistakes. And there's been plenty of mistakes made by myself and by our guys. And we just have to go and learn from that, be upfront and honest, and have integrity in what we're telling our customers, and just make things right. And I think that that's something that, I had this discussion the other day with Michael Pardo. Unfortunately, handshake deals and a man's word aren't worth what they used to be. And so you do have to get things in writing, and you do have to do all these things. And it's really difficult now because everybody's working virtual, or they're in other states, and you're just communicating via email. There's a lot of keyboard, commandos out there that are quick to fire things off, and they have no idea what it's like to do it in the field.
Yeah, so true. Carl Davenport asked a question regarding IPC. Does the company offer, how do you support skilled trades? Do you envision more emphasis on trade school and training? How do you conduct and support training? And that's something you've been posting a lot when you had your signing days and everything. So maybe go through a little bit of that as well.
Sure. So we started a program at IPC called Next Gen, and hats off to Clay, the owner of IPC, for just having that forward thinking to kind of allow me to put my crazy idea into action. I gave a speech in one of the schools here locally that has a trade program. We explained to them what we do. I ended up interviewing about 20 kids. We hired a few of them. A few didn't work out. A few did. It's one of those things. I will say that moving forward, it was difficult for us to hit the high school, simply because what I've determined is a lot of the young men and women that are just graduating from high school don't have the mental capacity needed to work in a dangerous environment. So one of the young men that I hired, he works at our office, and he runs circles around people. He does files for me and reports for me that would take me all day. He does them like that, right? So they're teaching them all these skills now, where it's really difficult to take a young man like that with zero experience and put him into a dangerous environment. And I didn't feel comfortable doing it, just because I wouldn't know what to do with myself if something happened to him. And so I think just being aware, we do have a program called Level Up, which we can take a helper, and after they've passed their probation, if they're showing good traction with us, then we train them to level up to a painter E, and then painter E's to D's, and so forth, so they can grow. Because that's the reality of our business, is we don't have a lot of craftsmen around. I joke when customers, tell me, hey, can you send me a crew over here by tomorrow at 7 a.m.? I tell them, like, I can't order guys on Amazon and have them delivered to my doorstep, right? Like, it takes planning and it takes time, and it's difficult to execute, but it can be done. We just have to communicate really good.
Yeah. So not no, really talking about the current state of the contracting environment out there right now, the industry where it's at right now, dealing with the labor challenges and all the type of things going on, customer demands and things like that. The importance of a contractor, an industrial painting contractor, really any type of contractor that does industrial work, to be able to be adaptable and flexible, but also being attuned to current market and then also demand of the owners. How difficult, how challenging is it today for a world-class organization like IPC? And what I mean by that is I know you guys deal with it and you're able to overcome any obstacles, but how bigger of a challenge is it today than it was, let's say, pre-pandemic?
It's really difficult. So it's difficult because, equipment's very expensive. And so buying the best equipment possible is important, and it's vital to the success of a project. Also, through the pandemic and the supply chain shortages, we were forward thinking enough to cut POs to secure our material for 6 months. So we had a 6 month inventory of material available to us because we're not so overhead happy that, or owned by a private equity group where they're not forward thinking enough. They don't want to see that cash out of pocket. They want to see PO. Where we were at the position to go ahead and secure all the material needed to keep our guys working for 6-7 months without having to worry about the supply issues. And so that's a big one too. I think that one of the things that is often missed in our business is we're not putting enough focus on internal growth. Whenever we have, these organizations, they go out and they steal employees from other companies rather than try to find the men and women who have the potential to level up to that next stage and invest in them. Those are the people that are already working for you. They're already doing this. And so that's something that we pride ourselves on, is trying to find inner talent that we have within our group and then give them what needs to be done to grow.
Hmm. So for this next part of our conversation, I picked 4 skills. And there's tons of skills that you could pick. People say, why do you pick 5? I want to pick 4 for time's sake, but I picked 4 skills that I think are really important, at least from my perspective. And the first one is self-awareness. And what I mean by self-awareness is that knowing your own strengths, weaknesses, your opportunities, your threats. You as a professional, you talking to other professionals right now, how important is it to have a good skill of self-awareness?
It's everything. We got asked the other day to take on a project that I'm sure we could have executed, but it would have been last minute and we would have been running and we probably wouldn't have done very well in. So we were self-aware and we told the customer it's not that we don't want to, but we just can't do it right now. And that's difficult to fathom in this market, right? You're turning down work. But if you're not capable of doing the job correctly, then don't take the job. Don't learn on a customer's job.
Yeah, it's too big of a risk to take, not only for the customer, but also for your reputation. We all know, you lose your reputation in the industry, you're done.
You're not going to get it back.
You're not going to get back. You're right. So the next one I picked is self-management. And I've actually seen good examples of self-management. And I've seen people sometimes kind of run amok where they're chasing after too much. They got too many balls in the air. They can't not seem to be able to control. And that creates a chaos that none of us really want to have. How easy is it to self-manage? How hard is it to self-manage?
I read a book in October of last year called Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. I talk about it all the time. That book changed my life and it changed the way that I self-manage. It really helped me to stay within my lane and to not take on more than I can chew and be selfish with my time so that I could be the best version of me. And so, there was a while there where I volunteered myself to death, and did a bunch of stuff. But what I realized is I was only able to provide this percentage here and this percent here and this percent, and it was never 100%. So after I read that book and, made some life changes, I've really just come to the point in my life where I know what I want to do and I know where I want to spend my time. and I know what it takes to be the best for IPC. I know what it takes to be the best person at home, the best dad, the best son, et cetera, et cetera. And so that's what I'm truly focused on.
Yeah, that's great to be focused on that. So for the third, I picked social awareness, and what I mean by social awareness is really, you know, having empathy for others, listening to others, but also too, I think the warm and friendliness that you should have when it comes to, we all have an important job to get done. And so there's the old way of doing it where as a boss, you'd scream and you bark at people. And today it's a little different where you really want to really develop that team effort and make it more of a moral victory and everything like that when it comes to it. For social skills, how critical and important is it for industrial contractors?
I think it's vital. I mean, I grew up in the era where, it was who can scream the loudest is leading the company, right? And that was the way that it was done. But those folks are towards their end of their careers, and the newer generation, they don't necessarily respond well to that. Again, I think it's all about putting yourself in check and showing respect and making sure that when you go to a new organization, you don't demand respect. You go and you earn it. And you get out there and you earn the people's respect. And once you've earned it, they will do anything for you. And it's one of those things that it's unfortunate that a lot of people don't practice that. They try to demand it from their desk, from their laptop, from their phone, in person, and by intimidation. And all they get is a lot of resentful employees who would leave them in a heartbeat. Where if you treat them very well, and it's not even financially treating them. I mean, it's you pay them fair, but you treat them well. And when they have a concern, you go and you listen. And I've had I've had craftsmen, we're working 50 hours a week and they wanted 70, right? And, they're frustrated, this and that. They came to me and I said, look, man, I'm being honest with you. This is what we're working right now. This is our schedule. I hope that you can understand that at least we're working that and it's consistent. Mm-hmm. It's not, chasing projects and all these things, but I don't think that they'd ever had someone sit down with them and shake their hand and remember their name and sit there and listen to their concern and then say, listen, yes, these next 2 weeks we're working 50, but then we're starting this job and you go right back to 70. Like you just have to give them that time of yours. And that means a lot in this business.
It means so much in the business. And really kind of moving away from the social aspect of it too, I think, which is this next one's going to be super important, is going to be related to relationship management, managing relationships, either you being a leader and you have your craftsmen, or, you have office workers, you have other people in your organization, you have other people in the industry, but having that relationship is super important. And I know for you, sometimes maybe you're looking for material, and having those connections can really mean the difference of continuing work or now you've got a slowdown or a shutdown because of some issue. So importance of relationship management for not only Sam Navarro, but anyone else watching. What do you say?
Yeah. So, I mean, I've had this issue a couple of weeks ago, right? I remember what it was like to sit on your side of the table. And so I don't beat our vendors up at all. I understand what they go through, and, I don't always I bought one of my guys lunch the other day and he goes, man, I've never had a contractor buy me lunch. I'm like, well, you did me right. You helped me out of a pinch. And so it's the least I could do for you. So that just changes their mindset radically. Right. And it's what I find that the biggest frustration is these, contractors in general. If you're leaning on your vendors for essentially your livelihood, right? If they're not giving you material, you're not painting or blasting. Why treat them bad? Why not pay? How are you going to go bad debt with a company and then ask for a favor? It doesn't work that way. That salesman, he's on calls all the time, and I bet you his credit department's calling him asking when, this company's going to pay and this company's going to pay and this company's going to pay. And then you call him and ask him for a favor and you wonder why he drags his feet. You're causing him a hell of a lot of grief.
Yeah. Those stories will never end sometimes, but they're really good stories. Sam, great conversation this evening. Is there anything related to leadership and industrial contractors or industrial painters that you would want to leave that maybe we didn't talk about? Any last thoughts?
I think that if you're a leader in this business, you should make yourself get out in the field more often.
Mm-hmm.
And you should go out there and you should learn what actually has to be done in order to execute a project correctly. And before you start, ripping into employees about the profitability of a project, you really have to start to look back at, did the cost change? Did the schedule change? What happened here? There's so many different variables that go into the success of a project. And unfortunately, a lot of management in our business tends to always blame the field personnel. Mm-hmm. And it's not always their fault. And going out there and showing your guys that you are forward thinking enough to not blame them right away, and go out there and try to learn what happened on the job. If your company's success is teetering on one project, then something's wrong, right? Because you've got all your eggs in one basket. And so you have to go out there and you have to truly understand what your business can do and what y'all are really good at, and then go sell that. Don't try to be the jack of all trades for everybody. Just focus on what you're really good at and go be the best at that. Hire the best employees you can, treat them fairly, treat them good, give them all that they need to succeed, and then sit back and watch them succeed.
Great final thought. Awesome interview. I appreciate having you on this evening. Sam, how can people get in contact with you?
You can call the IPC office, or you can visit us at ipcindustrieslp.com, or obviously on LinkedIn.
Okay, perfect. Sam, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Look forward to the next time you and I have another conversation on a different topic.
All right, no problem. Have a good one.
Okay, and everyone, this Wednesday evening, I'm going to have an audio live chat. It's going to be related to, so you want to be a coatings inspector. So those coatings inspectors who are watching this live stream and also watching the replay, please make sure you join me on Wednesday evening, 7 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, from a really good audio chat. And also, I'd like to let everybody know that thank you so much. I appreciate it. The Coatings Talk Insight newsletter has achieved over 2,000 subscribers. And I will have another edition going out tomorrow morning that will be related to Wednesday's live audio broadcast on LinkedIn Audio. Everyone, thank you so much. Next Monday will be the final leadership series wrap up for it. And then we'll start getting into some coatings topics moving forward on Coatings Talk. Thank you, everybody. Have a good evening and the rest of your week. And hopefully we'll be chatting with you on Wednesday.
Thank you, guys.